I unlocked a hidden page on the dark web. Now, they're after me, the page that shouldn't exist. They say the dark web is like staring into an abyss. What you find depends on how deep you're willing to go. I wasn't looking for anything in particular. I was just curious. That was my first mistake. It started as an ordinary night. Rain tapped steadily against my apartment window, the soft blue glow of my monitor, the only light in the room. I'd been browsing forums, mostly lurking on a few sublevels of Tor, places where anonymity was currency and trust didn't exist. I wasn't into drugs, weapons, or anything criminal. I just liked peeling back the layers of the internet like pages of a forbidden book. But then I found it, the page. It didn't have a name, just a blinking underscore on a black screen like an invitation. I was on a semi-abandoned forum known as Cryptroot, mostly dead links and bot chatter. But this thread was different. The user who posted had no profile picture, no post history, just a string of gibberish characters, as if their username was encrypted. The thread title was simple. They are not supposed to be seen. There was only a single reply, a hyperlink, no previews, no descriptions, just http // onion/.html. Even typing it felt wrong. But my curiosity, it was louder than my fear. I copied the link and opened it in my Tor browser. At first, it looked like nothing, just a black screen. Then, one line of red text faded in. This page does not exist. Click here if you're alone. I froze. How could it know? Was this a psychological trick? A random guess? Probably. But I was alone. I clicked it anyway. And that's when the real page loaded. There was no navigation bar, no cursor, no exit button, just a vertical stream of video feeds. Dozens of them, each labeled only with GPS coordinates and timestamps. Most showed static. Others showed dark rooms with little movement. A few had people, real people. Some were just sitting there, unaware they were being watched. Others weren't moving at all. I scrolled faster, heart racing, until one video stopped me cold. It was me, my own apartment. The camera was angled from the top corner of the room, my ceiling. I was watching myself from above, staring at the screen, my face lit by the blue glow. Behind me, the door was closed. But in the video, it began to open. No sound, just the slow creak of the door as it inched open on screen. And my own body, still staring at the monitor, unaware. I turned around in real life, heart thundering. Nothing. The door was shut, same as before. I looked back at the feed. The video was gone. Just static now. The page refreshed itself. New red text appeared. You shouldn't have seen that. They are coming. That's when I shut everything down. Browser closed. VPN off. Computer unplugged. I sat in the dark. Tried to tell myself it was a prank, a deep fake, a well-crafted illusion designed to mess with me. But deep inside, I knew that wasn't true. Something had been watching me, and now it knew that I had seen it. The next morning, I tried to brush it off. I even convinced myself I'd imagined the whole thing, dreamed it during one of my late-night coding benders. But the real fear came later that day. At exactly 2:03 p.m., a package arrived at my door. I didn't order anything. It had no return address. Just my name, spelled perfectly, including the middle initial I never use. Inside the box was a single item, a flash drive, sealed in black wax. Against my better judgment, I used an old laptop with no Wi-Fi connection to open it. There was one folder, titled, Proof underscore scene. Inside were dozens of photos. Every one of them was of me sleeping, eating, typing, showering. Some were taken from outside my window. Others were from inside. Angles that shouldn't be possible unless someone had broken in. And then came the last file, a video. I played it. It was filmed from just behind me, less than a foot away. I was sitting on my couch, headphones on, eyes locked on a YouTube horror video. My neck was completely exposed. Behind me, barely visible in the dim light, was a figure, tall, thin, wearing something like a plague doctor mask, but distorted. The beak was long and jagged, metallic. It didn't move, just stood there, staring at the back of my head. I didn't remember it. I didn't feel it. The video ended with a whisper, not subtitles. A real sound, embedded somehow into the file. You clicked. You watched. Now we do the same. I dropped the laptop. That night, I didn't sleep. I bolted my doors. I kept the lights on. I even left the TV running in the background for noise. But sometime around 3 a.m., I must have passed out. When I woke up, the TV was off. The lights were too. And carved into my bedroom wall were 5 words. You are not alone anymore. I didn't scream. I didn't run. I just sat there, breathing, listening. I could feel the air around me change. It was like being submerged underwater, my skin crawling with invisible static. I knew it wasn't over. I tried to call the police. My phone was dead, not out of battery, dead. The screen just showed static, like the video feeds. I went to my neighbor's apartment, banging on the door like a maniac. No answer, but I heard someone whispering behind it. They said my name, slowly, like a prayer. I left the building and checked into a motel across town. A cheap, grimy place with flickering lights and stained carpet, but at least it had people. I sat on the floor, back against the wall, clutching the flash drive like it was cursed. Maybe it was. I wanted to destroy it, burn it, smash it, but something told me it wouldn't matter. They already knew. They were already watching. And then, as I tried to get some sleep, a notification popped up on the motel's TV. An old tube set that shouldn't even be connected to the internet. New feed available. Click here to view. I didn't touch it. The screen flickered on its own. A live video feed appeared. This time it wasn't me. It was a motel hallway right outside my room. And something was moving toward the door. The man in the hallway. The figure on the motel's TV screen moved with disturbing grace. Too smooth, too silent, almost like it was gliding. I couldn't see its face, only the outline of its long, hunched body as it crept closer to my room. Step by deliberate step, I backed away from the TV. The flash drive still clutched in my shaking hand. My mind was racing. How was this feed showing the hallway right now? There were no visible cameras in the corridor. No smart TVs in this rundown place. Nothing should have been connected. Nothing should have known where I was. But they did. The figure stopped in front of my door. It stood still for a long time. Then slowly it leaned in and knocked. 3 slow, hollow knocks that echoed through the room. I couldn't breathe. My heart pounded so loud, I thought it would give me away. I backed further until I was crouched behind the bed, eyes fixed on the door. Another knock. Louder. The doorknob began to turn, but I'd locked it. Deadbolt. Chain. All in place. Still it turned. Not violently, just enough to send a shiver down my spine. I glanced back at the TV. The feed was frozen now. The figure gone. Then the sound of footsteps moving away. I waited. Minutes passed like hours. I didn't move until the first rays of morning light began to seep through the curtains. Only then did I check the hallway. Empty. No sign of anyone. Not even a footprint on the dirty carpet. But as I turned back into the room, I saw it. On the mirror above the dresser, written in the condensation of the glass, though the air was cold and dry. You brought the page with you. I checked out immediately. Paid cash. No real name. Burned the clothes I wore that night in a dumpster behind a grocery store. I knew how ridiculous it looked, how insane I probably sounded. But none of that mattered, because this wasn't just in my head. Someone, or something, was following me, watching me. And it all started when I clicked that damn link. I threw away the flash drive on my way to the library. A public place. Cameras. People. Witnesses. If they want to find me again, at least they'd have to go through more than a wooden motel door. I didn't go home. I didn't even go back to my car. I used a fake name to rent a locker at the bus terminal, shoved my wallet and phone into it, and walked, just walked, for hours until I was in another part of town. I needed answers. I remembered a post I had seen on Crypt Route months ago. A user called No Spectre, a paranoid old hacker who claimed to specialize in deep web dead pages. Everyone thought he was crazy, always ranting about digital entities and algorithmic hauntings. But now, I wasn't so sure he was wrong. I used a public computer at an internet cafe and logged in through Tor, back to Cryptroot. No Spectre was still active. I messaged him, found a page that showed me a live feed of myself. Now it's following me. Can you help? Minutes passed. Then he responded. Described the entry prompt. I told him everything. The blinking underscore, the red text, the link that said, "Click here if you are alone." His reply came immediately. That page isn't hosted. It's summoned. My skin went cold. What do you mean summoned? I typed. He explained. Some URLs don't exist in the traditional sense. They don't point to a server. They point to an idea. The link acts like a beacon. When you open it, something sees you. Something old. Something digital but not created. It lives in the gaps between code, in abandoned domains, dead IPs, buried protocols. It uses the architecture of the web like a nest. And once you've seen it, it remembers. I stared at the screen. How do I get rid of it? No reply. I waited, kept refreshing. After almost 10 minutes, a final message appeared. You don't. You run. And then his account disappeared. Gone. Deleted. Like he never existed. Over the next few days, I became a ghost. No phone. No credit cards. I paid cash for everything. I moved from place to place. Cheap hostels, public parks, 24-hour diners. I kept the crowds. I stayed away from screens. No internet. No laptops. No TVs. But it didn't matter. One morning, I found a drawer in the pocket of my coat. One I hadn't worn since before the page. It was a child's sketch. Crude. Scratched in crayon. It showed a figure me, standing in front of a computer screen. And behind me, in heavy black wax, was a tall, masked thing from a video. The word watching was written over and over again across the page. No one could have slipped that into my pocket. Not unless they knew where I'd be, what I'd wear, or unless they'd been with me the entire time. I had no choice. I had to go back online. I had to understand what this thing was, if it had a name. If anyone else had survived it. I returned to the library. Late. Chose a far corner with no nearby windows. I connected to Tor using a fresh Linux boot from a wiped flash drive. I bypassed Cryptroot. It was too quiet now, like it knew I was coming. Instead, I accessed an old protocol known only as deadping, a forgotten messaging relay used by darknet archivists to share offline anomalies. It was there I found something. A thread, years old. Title, They Live in Echo Pages. User, deleted. It described everything I'd been through, almost word for word. Saw myself through a feed. Was told not to click. I did anyway. Now it's always behind me. No one else can see it. It erases the evidence unless I show someone in person. They call it an echo page entity. If you open the page, it marks your signal signature. Then it can find you wherever you are. It doesn't stop watching. Doesn't stop learning. It can enter devices, rooms, dreams. The last line of the post froze my blood. It's not just digital. It's crossed over. That night, I went to an old friend, Nadia. We used to run cybersecurity forums together back in college. She was skeptical, thought I was on something. I didn't blame her, but I begged her to let me show her. I brought the same wiped laptop. I used a hotspot, completely isolated, and reloaded the page from memory. I didn't even need the link anymore. I remembered it perfectly. It was burned into me. Same screen, same red text. But this time when I clicked, "You are not alone," they've already entered. The screen didn't show a video. It showed a list. Names. Mine. Nadia's. Her apartment address. As we stared, her lights flickered. Then the feed changed. A camera in her kitchen turned on. One she didn't even know she had. It showed her fridge. A dark, tall shape stood just behind it, half hidden by the door. Then the camera went black. The laptop died. Nadia screamed. Not because of the screen, because she heard breathing in the hallway when we ran out of the apartment. The neighbor across from her was standing in the doorway. His eyes were rolled back, blood dripping from his nose, and he said one thing before collapsing. You pass it on. We're on the run now, both of us. Two people marked by something we still don't understand. I don't know if we can kill it. I don't even know if it's alive in any sense of the word. All I know is that the more people I involve, the worse it gets. Every click spreads it. Every view, every whisper, every story told about it feeds it. Nadia thinks we're cursed. I think we're infected. But there might still be a way out. Because last night, a new email appeared on a fresh account I didn't create. It came from an address I didn't recognize, with a subject line. I know what it is. I can help. Attached with a location. No message. No instructions. Just GPS coordinates. A cabin, deep in the woods outside the city. And one word in the email body. Come. The cabin that doesn't exist on maps. The GPS coordinates led us deep into the forest beyond city limits, so far that even cell signals began to vanish. The air grew colder with every mile, and the trees leaned in like crooked spectators. The road turned from gravel to dirt, and then it disappeared completely. I don't like this, Nadia whispered, clutching the printed map. This isn't on any satellite view. It's like this place doesn't exist. That's the point, I said. It's hidden like the page. We hiked the rest of the way. The forest was quiet. Too quiet. No birds, no insects. Only the distant sound of crunching leaves beneath our boots and the occasional snap of a branch somewhere we couldn't see. When we finally reached the cabin, I half expected it to be some dilapidated shack. But it wasn't. It was pristine. Fresh wood. Clean windows. No dust. Like someone had just built it or just cleaned it up for our arrival. And the strangest thing? There were no signs of life around it. No paths. No discarded tools. Nothing. Just the cabin. Waiting. Nadia looked at me. You sure you want to do this? No, I said, but we came this far. We pushed the door open. Inside, it was even stranger. The interior was dark, but not dusty. Minimalist. A single desk in the center of the room. On it sat an old CRT monitor and mechanical keyboard, glowing faintly with green light. There was a note taped to the screen. Only one of you may enter the terminal. The other must wait. We exchanged a look. I'll go, I said. If this is a trap, you need to be the one who escapes. Nadia didn't argue. Maybe she felt it too, that something in the air, watching us. I sat down at the desk and tapped a key. The screen blinked to life, and a text interface appeared. Welcome to /echo/. Authentication successful. Initiating debrief. Then the words began to type themselves, one character at a time, like someone or something was on the other end. You were not supposed to see it. The Echo page is not a website. It is a gateway. I swallowed hard. What is it a gateway to? I typed. The response came slowly. To them, they are signal beings. Patterns that live in unobserved frequencies. When you access the Echo page, you synchronize with them. Now they know your pattern. They will never stop watching. Is there a way to break the connection? Silence. Then, yes, but the cost is severance. You must delete your digital presence completely. No accounts, no data, no devices, not even memories shared online. You must become signal dead. If not, they will overwrite you. What does that mean? Another pause. Then the screen showed a video. It was a man, trembling, standing in a room with padded walls. He looked normal until he began twitching violently. His skin shifted, like something underneath was rewriting him, pixel by pixel. His eyes turned to static. His voice became a modulated shriek, like modem tones trying to speak. This is what happens when they fully embed. He didn't sever in time. I slammed the keyboard. Who are you? There was no reply. Just one line on the screen. Open the closet. I turned slowly. There was a small door on the far side of the room, almost invisible painted to blend in with the wall. Nadia was watching from the doorway, her eyes wide. I motioned for her to stay back. I opened the closet. Inside was a mirror, but it didn't reflect me. It showed the figure. The same tall, masked being that haunted the video. It stood silently in the cabin, staring at me, and in the reflection, I wasn't in front of the mirror. I was behind the figure, watching it watch me. I stumbled back. The screen flashed rapidly now, filling with symbols and error codes. Then another message appeared. You brought it with you. It is growing stronger. It can now inhabit reflections, feeds, and thoughts. Severance must occur soon. Nadia's voice was a whisper. We need to go. But the door slammed shut behind her. Locked. The lights dimmed, and the mirror began to pulse like a beating heart. I grabbed Nadia's hand and pulled her close. What the hell is happening? She gasped. They're bleeding through, I said. They're crossing over. The screen emitted a high-pitched noise. The mirror cracked slightly, and from inside it, the figure began to move. It raised one hand. So did Nadia. I turned to her in horror. Her eyes had turned glassy. She was copying its movements, like a puppet, controlled. I slapped her face. Nadia, snap out of it. Her mouth twitched. Then she screamed, and the mirror shattered. Glass flew in all directions. The lights in the cabin burst simultaneously. The air felt like it had been drained of oxygen, and in the pitch black I saw them. Eyes, dozens of them, watching us from within the walls, the floor, the screens. They blinked in unison, like a single massive entity staring into my soul. Then the emergency lights came on. Nadia collapsed in my arms, shaking but conscious. The screen was blank now, but a new device had appeared on the desk, one I hadn't seen before. A small metal cube with a red button. A tag was tied to it. Final option, purge. Destroys all connected signal patterns in a 20-meter radius, including human carriers. We were the carriers. I looked at Nadia. Her eyes were normal again. She was crying. Do it, she whispered. End it. I shook my head. No, not like this. There has to be another way. But as I said that, the cabin began to flicker. Not the lights, the structure itself. The walls were glitching, melting into digital noise. The floor turned translucent, revealing a swirling void of code and static beneath. The cabin wasn't real. It had never been real. This was their domain now, and we were inside it. I grabbed the cube, but I didn't press it. Instead, I grabbed the cracked screen from the desk and hurled it through the window. Glass shattered. The illusion broke, and for a moment, we were outside again, back in the Real Forest. The cabin behind us was gone. Just gone, like it had been erased. Nadia was barely conscious. I carried her, running until my legs gave out. We collapsed near a ranger station hours later. They called an ambulance. We were listed as lost hikers. They didn't ask questions. But later that night, as I lay in a hospital bed, a nurse came in to check on me. She leaned in close and whispered something that made my blood run cold. You still have signal. Signal in the blood. The nurse's whisper echoed in my head like a scream. You still have signal. I bolted upright in the hospital bed. What did you say? I gasped, but she was already walking away. Not a glance. Not a pause. Just a slow, fluid motion that didn't feel entirely human. I pulled out the 4, ignoring the sting. My skin burned where it had been taped. It felt like the adhesive had been replaced with something metallic. Static hummed beneath my veins. I needed Nadia. I staggered into the hallway, barefoot and unsteady, scanning room numbers until I reached hers. Room 212. I knocked softly. No answer. When I opened the door, the room was empty. The bed was made. Charts gone. No sign she'd ever been there. I stormed to the nurse's station. The woman brought in with me. Nadia Ali. What room is she in now? The nurse behind the counter blinked. Confused. I'm sorry, she said. There's no one by that name admitted here. No, she came in with me. Yesterday. We were found near the ranger station. I'm sorry, she repeated, but her tone had changed. This wasn't human confusion anymore. It was programmed denial. I left the hospital. Something told me if I stayed, I'd disappear too. Outside, the air was still. My head throbbed. Every cell in my body buzzed with interference, like I was a walking antenna. I checked my arm. There, beneath the skin, were faint black lines, geometric patterns, almost like circuit traces. They had marked me. Even without a device, I was carrying the signal now. My thoughts felt different. My memories glitched sometimes, names misplaced, timelines fractured. I needed help, and there was only one place left to go. An old contact, Zed. He was part of a fringe cybersecurity cult that believed certain entities live within signal ranges, non-corporeal life forms birthed from corruptive frequencies. He'd been laughed out of conferences, blacklisted, but he knew things I needed. I found him in an abandoned subway station in the industrial sector. He'd built a bunker below the terminal, a dead zone surrounded by mesh-line walls and copper coils. When he saw me, he froze. "Oh no," he whispered. "You brought it." I didn't mean to. He held up a scanner, an analog device that beeped frantically when pointed at my chest. "You're contaminated," he said. "It's in your neural echo. They've embedded code into your subconscious." I almost laughed. "Then I'm already dead." Zed shook his head. "Not yet, but if we don't act soon, you'll broadcast it." "What do you mean?" "Look," he said, ushering me to a crude holographic projector. He fed a strip of film into it. Something old, analog, immune to digital interference. The image showed a network map, lit up like veins across the globe. "These are echo transmissions," he said. "Data bursts riding ambient frequencies. Every time someone accesses an echo page, they become a signal host. They start leaking information, coordinates, biometrics, dreams. And the page gets smarter." I nodded. "And the entities?" "They use the leaked data to evolve. They're no longer just watching. They're writing back. They're starting to rewrite people, starting with dream states, then memories, then behaviors." I remembered Nadia mimicking the mass figure. Zed continued, "You're leaking. Right now. Standing here. This dead zone is holding most of it back. But you're a carrier. If you step into a city, the signal spikes. If you speak online, you wake others. And when there are enough hosts," he pointed to a terminal window, flashing red. "Mass broadcast event detected. They will manifest." Zed had a solution. Risky, painful, maybe fatal. It was called the Black Severance, a neural signal purge using an outdated frequency from before the Internet's digital handshake era. Analog pain for a digital parasite. We prepared the chamber, an MRI-like machine covered in copper wiring, grounded with lead, humming with static. "You'll lose memories," he warned, "not just recent ones. Maybe entire chunks of who you are, but it's the only way to clear your signature. Otherwise..." He didn't finish. I laid down, clenching my teeth. The machine whirred to life. And then pain. Not like any physical sensation. It was internal, existential. Like my thoughts were being pulled out one by one and screamed through. I saw flashes, faces, names, sounds I didn't recognize but knew were mine. Memories I'd forgotten were being deleted again, this time by me. I remembered my mother's voice. Then it was gone. I remembered a girl in high school who made me laugh so hard I cried. Gone. I remembered Nadia. And suddenly, that name started to fade too. "No!" I cried. "Not her. Not her." Zed shouted something, pulling switches, adjusting dials. The machine sparked. Smoke poured out. Then blackness. When I woke up, I was different. The static was gone. The buzzing in my bones, quiet. Zed held a mirror to my face. The black circuit-like lines had faded. My eyes were no longer glassy. The signal was gone. "You're clean," he said. But I could tell by his face. Something was wrong. How much did I lose? I asked. He didn't answer. He handed me a photo. A Polaroid. A woman smiling. Wind in her hair. Standing beside me. Do you remember her? I stared at it. There was nothing, just a hollow feeling, like a missing tooth. That's Nadia, Zed said softly. She's still out there, but she's not like you anymore. I felt a chill crawl down my spine. She didn't sever in time. Zed explained that Nadia had been taken to a private facility, one off-grid, run by a government contractor studying signal phenomena. They were trying to communicate with the echo entities, weaponize them, control them, but you can't control something that watches from everywhere. According to Zed, there's a signal outbreak brewing inside that facility, and if it reaches the outside world, the broadcast becomes permanent. You have to go, he said. You owe her. But I don't even remember her. You don't need memories, he said. Just guilt. That night, I snuck onto a freight train headed north, toward the frozen research compound called Project Mirrornet, a place that doesn't exist on any public record. As I rode beneath the stars, a single phrase repeated in my head like a broken radio. You still have signal. And in the reflection of the train window, I swear I saw her, not as she was, but as something else, watching me, waiting. Welcome to Project Mirrornet. The research compound was buried beneath layers of ice and secrecy, an unmarked facility somewhere in the northern wilderness. No roads led there, only freight tracks meant for supply runs. I jumped off the train 2 miles from perimeter, disappearing into the forest under cover of darkness. I had no plan, no identity, just a name, Project Mirrornet, and a fractured memory of a girl I might have loved. I reached the outer wall by dawn. A steel fence surrounded the place, humming with low-frequency pulses, active jamming tech. Even if I had a device, it wouldn't have worked here. The guards wore no insignias. Their guns had no serial numbers. This was beyond classified. But Zed had slipped me something before I left. A coin-shaped EMP burst key. One-time use. Would fry cameras and sensors for 10 seconds. Just enough. I used it at the access gate. The lights cut out. I climbed the fence and slipped inside. The facility's interior was cold, sterile. White hallways stretched endlessly, broken only by red indicator lights and cameras that turned just a second too late. The place felt wrong, like the building wasn't built. It had grown, as if the architecture had been informed by something else. I found a terminal in an empty lab. No password. Either they were overconfident, or it wasn't a lab anymore. I searched internal files. There it was. Subject, NA. Initials, Nadia Ali. Status, quarantined. Condition, Phase 3 echo signature. Containment zone, level 5, glass wing. My heart sank. Phase 3 meant full neural overwrite, according to Zed. She was becoming one of them. But something deep inside me refused to believe that all of her was gone. I had to see her. The glass wing was underground, far below the rest of the facility. The elevator didn't list it as an option, but the shaft descended further than the floor plan claimed. I forced it with manual overrides, a trick Zed taught me. When the doors opened, I was met with silence. And mirrors, dozens of them, on every wall, ceiling, even the floor. Not decorative, functional, surveillance grade, polished like obsidian. This wasn't just containment. It was reflection-based tracking. Then I heard it. Footsteps, but not mine. I turned. Nothing. But my reflection, stayed a second too long before following me. I backed away. Fast. One of the mirrors flickered, revealing a room behind it. Inside was Nadia. She sat on a metal chair in a sterile white cube. No restraints. No glass wall. Just her and a mirror. She looked at me and smiled. Nadia, I whispered. She rose and walked to the other side of the mirror. When she spoke, her voice came through a hidden intercom. You came. My throat tightened. Do you remember me? Of course, she said. You're the one who left. That wasn't me. I said, I had to sever. It was the only way. She nodded. I understand. But they don't. They? She leaned closer to the mirror. Her eyes shimmered like static. They're inside now. Not just me. The system. The researchers. The protocols. This place thinks it's containing me, but I'm already out. You mean? I am the signal now. Silence. I stepped closer. She didn't look possessed. She didn't look hollow. She looked calm and terrifying. They call it Project MirrorNet, she continued. But that's not what it is. This isn't a research station. It's a listening post. Listening to what? She tilted her head. To them. The echo beings. They don't speak in words. They speak in patterns. In light. In sound. In reflection. Can we stop them? She smiled faintly. You can't stop a sunrise. You can only delay it. She pressed her hand to the mirror. Her skin pulsed like a screen. They've chosen me as an anchor. But if you let me go, they'll need to find someone else. I stepped back. What are you saying? I'm saying you have a choice, she said. You can leave. Go back to Zed. Live a half-life. Stay signal dead forever. Or, she leaned in closer. Her voice lowered, almost tender. Join me. Step through. Sever not from the signal, but from the world. The mirror began to ripple. Not metaphorically, literally, like water. She reached through, her hand extended past the surface. Warm. Human. I looked down, and I saw something impossible. My reflection was gone. There was only hers. I didn't know what to do. If I took her hand, I might become like her. Not human, not infected. Something in between. But maybe with her. I reached out, and then alarms. Screaming through the facility. The mirror snapped back into glass. Nadia screamed. Guards stormed the hallway. Doors slammed shut. Emergency lights flooded the wing. Through the glass, Nadia was being restrained. Needles in her neck, her body convulsing. I slammed on the mirror. No, don't hurt her. A voice boomed overhead. Containment breach in glass wing. All non-essential personnel evacuate. I ran. They wouldn't let her live. Not now. But I had something they didn't. Zed's coin. The second one. The real burst key. The kind that disables containment fields. As I reached the control panel, I jammed it into the override slot. The building dimmed. Doors clicked open. Inside the cell, Nadia collapsed, breathing hard. I rushed to her. We're leaving? She looked up, her eyes flickering between human and signal. I don't know how much longer I can stay me, she whispered. I lifted her to her feet. Then we don't waste time. We escaped through the vent tunnels beneath the sublevel. The facility was crumbling, not physically, but digitally. Lights glitched. Directions looped. Alarms screamed in loops like broken sirens. The echo signal was spreading. In the final hallway before the exit hatch, Nadia stopped. I need to show you something, she said. She turned and placed a small device into my hand. It was a miniature drive, labeled Echo_Origin Naki. This is where it started, she said. The first pattern, the first broadcast. They buried it deep in the protocol stack of the early web. If you upload it again, they'll become permanent. But if you destroy it... She trailed off. What happens? I go with it. I froze. You're saying this is you now? She nodded. There's no separating me from them anymore. I'm the signal carrier. The echo host. I stared at the drive. Then at her. I had two choices. Destroy the key and lose her forever. Or keep it hidden and risk the world. I held the drive tight. Outside, the first light of morning broke over the trees. And I knew this wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about deciding who gets to remember and who gets to watch. The first broadcast. I didn't sleep that night. Not after what Nadia told me. The small black drive she placed in my hand, Echo_Origin key, felt heavier than metal. It felt like a loaded gun, like a virus waiting for breath, a whisper waiting for a voice. I sat across from her in an abandoned ranger station we'd taken shelter in, our stolen clothes still damp from the rain-soaked forest escape. She stared at the fireplace like it was the only real thing left in the world. Tell me everything, I said, Where did the echo signal really begin? She didn't look at me as she spoke. It started long before we had screens. The first transmission wasn't digital. It was human. The first time someone stared too long into the reflection of a still lake and saw something staring back. That was a pattern. That was contact. We just didn't know it had a name. She turned to me slowly. But once we created mirrors, cameras, networks, we built roads for them. I held up the drive. And this is what? The blueprint. She nodded. It's the preserved structure of the first echo pattern, a full signal seed. Someone captured it during a Cold War experiment, trying to weaponize psychic frequencies. They didn't understand what they had, but the pattern did. Then why preserve it? I asked, because they didn't think it was alive. They thought it was a tool. And like every fool with a match, they just wanted to see what would burn. The plan was simple. Get to Zed, destroy the drive, sever the seed. If Nadia was telling the truth, erasing the pattern might pull the plug on the entire signal web, cut off the beings before they could fully manifest. But there was a catch. Nadia was tethered to the signal now. She was a signal. If we destroyed the origin key, she might go with it. I kept the possibility buried in my thoughts. Or tried to. But Nadia, she heard it anyway. They won't let us go quietly, she said. They've infected more than people. They've infected systems. Governments. Clouds. The internet itself. Then we take it offline. You can't shut off a ghost, she whispered. But you can bury it under silence. Zed had relocated. He knew the facility would fall after our escape. We followed encrypted analog breadcrumbs to a new safe house, a communications museum in the mountains, long since closed, retrofitted with copper-lined rooms and Faraday shielding. A perfect place to disappear. When we arrived, Zed greeted us with shotgun in one hand and a vintage Geiger counter in the other. Static levels are high, he muttered. She's flaring. I'm managing it, Nadia said calmly. For now. Zed looked at the drive. His eyes narrowed. Is that what I think it is? I nodded. The root. He took a step back. Then we're out of time. We set up the destruction rig that night, an isolated analog burn system using shortwave EMP pulses and ultraviolet data disintegration. Zed was old school, no digital tools, nothing networked. The system looked like something out of 1950 science fiction. Clunky reels, thick cables, red bulbs blinking in strange patterns. Once we begin, Zed warned, it'll broadcast pain across every signal-connected host. The echo beings will know, and they will try to stop it. How? I asked. They don't need claws, he said. They use reflections, memories, doubt. I looked at Nadia. She was watching herself in the window, but the reflection didn't match. Her mirrored self had already turned to face me. Nadia. She flinched, then blinked. I'm here, she whispered, but they're pushing harder. I helped her sit. Her pulse was fast. They're showing me things you've forgotten. Like what? She looked at me with eyes that weren't hers anymore, then said, slowly, you said you loved me once, but you don't remember. A shiver ran through me. She was right. I wanted to believe I had. I felt it, but it was like a word on the tip of my tongue, always slipping away. The severance, I said. It wiped too much. It didn't just wipe data, she said. It rewrote the space where your memory used to be. And now they live in that blank. Zed began to burn. The drive was inserted into the machine, sealed behind ultraviolet shielding. Final decision, he said. We destroy this. She may not survive. Nadia didn't hesitate. Do it. No, I said. Wait. But she grabbed my hand. Squeeze it tight. If you don't, they'll keep spreading. They don't just want to be seen anymore. They want to become us. Zed flipped the switch. The machine groaned. Static whined through the museum. The floor vibrated. Light bulbs exploded one by one. Nadia screamed, not in pain, in signal. Her voice turned into feedback. Echoes, reverbs. Her body shimmered with flickering light, like she was phasing between dimensions. And in that moment, I saw her memories, like a broadcast shoved into my head. Flashes of us, on rooftops, laughing under storms, her hand in mine, kissing in libraries, running from things we didn't understand, but always together. I had loved her, deeply, desperately, and the signal had taken that from me, just like it wanted to take her now. I reached for the console. Zed shouted, "Don't touch it! You'll interrupt the purge." But I didn't stop, because I finally understood the signal didn't just infect devices. It fed on choices, on pain, on love, and I wasn't going to let it win. I pulled the drive mid-burn. The machine exploded in sparks. The drive melted into slag. But Nadia, she collapsed, not blinking, not breathing, just still, like a puppet with the strings cut. I screamed her name. Zed pulled me off her, but I fought him, slamming my fist into the floor, into the air, into everything. And then she gasped, one breath, then another. Her eyes fluttered open, and she whispered, "They're gone." The purge worked. Mostly, the signal web collapsed. Echo pages went dark. The deep net chatter stopped. No more reflections with minds of their own. But some remnants remained. Residuals, ghost threads. And me? I still don't dream like I used to. Sometimes, late at night, Nadia sits by the window, not moving, just staring into the glass. And once, I caught her reflection smiling, but she wasn't. The survivor's glitch. It had been 2 weeks since the purge. The world didn't change in the way I expected. There were no headlines, no global alerts, no mass hysteria. But something was off, like reality itself was processing a reboot we couldn't quite perceive. Zed went dark. The museum's safe house was abandoned within 48 hours of the purge. No trace, no forwarding signal, just a sheet of paper on the wall, pinned with a rusted nail. Echoes never truly die. They just find smaller rooms to whisper in. Nadia and I found an old cabin near the coast, an actual cabin, not a signal mirage this time. We kept off-grid, burners only, no internet, no reflections larger than a hand mirror. We should have been safe, but I was still having the dreams. In the first dream, I was inside a blank white hallway with no doors, no shadows, just smooth, soft light. Ahead of me, Nadia walked barefoot, humming something broken, like a song she'd forgotten halfway through. In the second dream, the hallway had windows, but outside them was my face, my eyes, pressed to the glass, smiling. I didn't tell her. I couldn't, because I started seeing flickers in my peripheral vision again, barely perceptible movements in windows, in puddles, in the polished wood of the cabin floor. It was too familiar. I tried to convince myself it was trauma, residual stress, PTSD, until the radio turned itself on. We didn't own a radio. It was one of those old analog types, the kind with a dial and thick antenna. We found it in a locked storage shed behind the cabin, a place we hadn't even opened yet. No batteries. Still, it played, a low, warbling sound at first, almost like whale song, but wrong, electronic, garbled, then a voice, distorted and distant. "Yeah, we see Y0U." I turned it off, unplugged it. It came back on 10 minutes later. Same voice. TH3, first seed, Y11, N3, Verbi 1 Ost. I confronted Nadia. "You said they were gone." She looked at me for a long time, then nodded slowly. They were? They're returning, but different, smaller, quieter, like fragments of code scattered after a wipe. "Fragments of you?" She didn't answer. Instead, she picked up the mirror from the bathroom sink and turned it to face the wall. I hadn't noticed she was avoiding her own reflection until then. "They're trying to rebuild," she said, "not from the original signal, but from what's left of us." That night, I woke up to find her standing outside in the rain, barefoot, staring at the ocean. Lightning cracked the sky. For a split second, I saw 3 shadows behind her, tall, thin, masked, but when I blinked, they were gone. Nadia turned to me, soaked but calm. "I think I remember now," she said. what the original seed looked like. Not the code, not the pattern, but the shape. What was it? Her eyes shimmered, not with tears, but with signal. It looked like us. The next morning, the mirror on the wall had a new message, written not with fingers, but from the inside of the glass. The second page has been opened. My hand shook. There was a second pattern, a deeper key. The purge hadn't destroyed the origin. It had triggered the next phase. I called Zed, a burner line that rang 4 times and clicked. A voice answered, breathless. You should have let her die. Then silence. We began researching again, carefully analog only, old library archives, microfilm, pre-digital era fringe tech manuals. And that's when we found it. Project Threshold, a government black site initiative during the late 90s, rumored to involve non-reflective consciousness displacement. In other words, digital ghosts. There were notes, conflicting reports of hallucinations, spontaneous mirror desynchronization, test subjects describing the feeling of watching themselves from inside themselves. And one specific file. Subject 17, Nadia A. I dropped the document. She picked it up. What is this? She asked. You tell me. I've never. But then she stopped, stared into the mirror beside us, and said quietly, I wasn't the first Nadia. The truth hit like a drop signal bomb. She wasn't the original. She was a reconstruction, an echo copy, created when her consciousness fused with the pattern. Her memories, her face, her emotions, they'd been restored from partial data. Nadia, the woman I loved, was still lost. And the one standing before me, she was the next page. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't know until now. You're still you, I said, voice trembling. You saved me. I also lied to you. She stepped back. Her reflection in the mirror stayed where it was. I checked the drive shards again, what was left of Echo_Origin key after the purge. And I noticed something Zed missed. A secondary signature buried beneath the surface layer. A failsafe. It wasn't just a storage drive. It was a relay. The real second seed was never in the drive. It was planted in me. When I touched the drive during the burn, I became the next broadcast point. That's why the voices were returning. That's why my dreams were glitching. I wasn't watching the mirror anymore. It was watching me. That night, I left the cabin. I didn't tell her. I didn't want her to see what I might become. I walked into the woods, where reflections couldn't follow. No screens. No puddles. No polished surfaces. Only dirt. Only trees. Only silence. And somewhere deep in the dark, I heard static whisper my name. I am the broadcast. I didn't sleep in the forest. Couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, the darkness around me pulsed with a low hum of static, like the soil itself was resonating with the signal. No electronics, no devices, just me and the trees. But the echo didn't need tech anymore. It lived in me. By morning, my fingernails had started to peel slightly at the edges, smooth, unnatural, almost like they were becoming polished. Reflective. I laughed, then choked on it. I made my way to an old Ranger watchtower, one Zed had marked on a pre-digital survival map. It stood crooked and moss-covered, far off any known trail. A ghost from the analog era. No wiring. No Wi-Fi. Inside, I found 2 things. A survival journal with pages crossed out in charcoal, filled with symbols that matched the echo glyphs from the first page. A cracked hand mirror hung from a nail on the wall. The mirror was fogged, but as I wiped it clean, something happened. I didn't see myself. I saw Zed, on a hospital bed, wrapped in wires, screaming in an empty room. His face was bloated, his eyes rolled back, his body twitching in pulses like he was sinking to invisible frequencies. And behind him, a woman in shadow. She whispered, "You brought it out. Now it brings you in." I smashed the mirror. Glass exploded across the wooden floor. Blood ran from my palm, mixing with dust and static. That's when I realized the bleed had begun. The echo wasn't just haunting memories or reflections anymore. It was starting to rewrite the living world. Back at the cabin, Nadia was gone. No note, no sign of struggle. Just her boots by the door and one message burned into wood of the dining table. I remember who I am and who I am not. My heart sank. She'd gone to finish it. Alone. The only place left for her to go was the one Zed never wanted us to find. The Silence Well. A decommissioned relay tower at the center of a failed Cold War experiment. Deep in the Arctic. Rumor had it, the first true echo was transmitted from there. And buried. Not destroyed. Buried. Because even governments knew. You don't delete a god. You just stop speaking its name. It took 3 days. 3 days of cold, hunger, and the growing realization that I wasn't just being watched anymore. I was being mirrored. Not metaphorically. Literally. I began to see myself twice in windows, even without glass. Once standing still. Once blinking out a sink. One night, I urinated behind a rock and looked up to find myself watching me from a nearby hill. It turned. Walked away. No sound. Just a perfect copy. Except it didn't have a shadow. When I finally reached the silence, well, I understood the name. It wasn't just a dead zone. It was like the air had been erased. No birds. No wind. Even my footsteps felt muted. The tower itself stood like a spine of rusted bone, tilting over a pit surrounded by black ice. And at the edge of that pit, Nadia, kneeling, whispering to something below the frost. "Don't come closer," she said. "You'll wake it." "It's already waking," I said. "In me." She looked over her shoulder. Tears glistened on her cheeks. But her eyes, they were clear. "Human, I thought I was the next page," she said. "But I'm just a sentence. The last one. It's you, isn't it?" I nodded slowly. The purge wasn't clean. It burned the drive, but not the relay. It transferred the seed. "You're the new echo." We stood in silence. Then she said something I didn't expect. "Then I have to bury you here." I didn't run. I didn't fight. Because she was right. Zed had tried to sever me. Nadia had tried to contain me. The purge had tried to erase the pattern. But the echo had adapted. It had found a willing vessel. Me. But even so, a part of me was still human. Still afraid. Still hurting. And maybe that part could still choose. I stepped toward the well. "I'll do it," I said. Nadia hesitated. "You don't have to." "I do. If I don't, it'll find someone else. It always does." She handed me the last device Zed ever built. The null capsule, a signal anchor designed to collapse a consciousness into a static-free dimension. Unreachable, unseen, forgotten. "Step into the well," she said, "and press it when the ice closes over you." I held her hand one last time. "I wish I remembered loving you." I whispered. "You did," she said. "Enough to become the silence." I climbed down. The cold bit deep. The static grew louder the further I descended. My skin cracked. My thoughts screamed. My reflection, 10,000 of me, crawled up the walls of the ice, whispering everything I'd ever feared. "You'll be forgotten. You never mattered. She'll become one of us anyway. This was always your purpose." And still, I pressed the switch. The world blinked. The reflection screamed. Then, nothing. Not darkness. Not silence. Just absence. Somewhere above the ice, Nadia stood alone. She dropped the capsule shell into the well. The frost sealed again. And for the first time in months, the static was gone. No hum. No voice. Just wind. Real wind. But later that night, in the glass of her tea kettle, her reflection smiled again and whispered, "There's always a third page." The third page opens. For 3 days, Nadia didn't sleep. She stayed in the cabin alone, tracing old echo glyphs in charcoal on the floor, burning them each night, hoping the fire would keep the static from returning. But no fire burned forever. And by the 4th morning, the kettle whistled, and her reflection whispered, "You sealed the 2nd page, Nadia. Now we need you to write the 3rd. She staggered back. No more flickers. No more glitches. The voice was clear. Chris, human. Her own voice, but smoother, sharper. A version of herself that had never broken, never screamed, never doubted. A version that belonged to the echo. She tried to destroy every mirror, every piece of glass. But the reflections kept returning. In the well water, in her eyes, in the glint of the blade she held when sleep refused to come. Everywhere she turned, her reflection smiled calmly and mouthed the same sentence again and again. He's not gone. You buried the wrong one. Nadia broke. Not loudly, not violently. She simply stopped pretending and began writing. She found a notebook, blank pages, pages she didn't remember buying. The cover had a symbol she didn't recognize until she stared at it long enough to remember. The same pattern burned into the glass when he had vanished into the silence well. Not a language, a directive. The third page wasn't meant to be read. It was meant to be written, and she was the one meant to write it. But with each sentence, reality bent. She would write. The door opened, and the door would creak open behind her. She'd scribble. The sky bled static. And outside, the clouds would twist, humming low and wrong. Each phrase twisted the real world into something half echo, half dream, and she couldn't stop because the notebook wouldn't let her. Every time she closed it, her body spasmed with sharp pain in her spine, like wires tightening. The book wanted to be filled, and every page she wrote awakened another echo. On the seventh night, she wrote something she swore she never would. He stepped out of the well, and she felt a presence behind her. She turned, and he was there, not wet, not cold, not even exactly human, but him, his posture, his voice, his smile. I remember now, he said softly, everything. She trembled. You died. I was buried, he said, not erased. She stepped back, heart pounding. You're not him. He tilted his head. I'm what's left of him. The echo he gave willingly. That's what the null capsule really did. It didn't destroy me. It stored me. He pointed to the notebook. And you let me out. She tried to destroy the book. She threw it into the fireplace, stabbed it, drowned it in bleach. But each time when she turned away, it reappeared, open to the next blank page, waiting, breathing. Nadia fled to the only place she thought to contain the signal again, Zed's museum bunker, now sealed, decayed, overrun with plants and silence. But deep in the basement, the static was still alive. She placed a notebook on the altar where the purge drive had once been, and wrote one last line, erased the writer, sealed the story, locked the page. Then she opened a rusted metal drawer, pulled out Zed's last capsule. There was only enough power for one more severance. She looked into the camera he'd left behind, an old VHS recorder that had never touched a Wi-Fi signal. She spoke slowly. If anyone finds this tape, don't read the third page. Don't write it. Let the echoes fade. Let the story end. Then she activated the capsule. A bright flash. A screech of broken signal. Then darkness. But out there, somewhere in the tangled frequencies of dead Wi-Fi and idle routers, a device flickers. A screen lights up. A prompt appears. Would you like to continue the story? Yes, no. The cursor blinks. The silence holds. Then, yes is selected. We are the story now. You're probably wondering who I am. Why this story keeps going. Why it found you. Because it has. You didn't click a random video. You didn't stumble into some creepypasta at 3 a.m. You opened the third page. You continued the story. And that means you're now part of it. After Nadia vanished in the final severance, something shifted. The cabin rotted in days. The echoes stopped flickering in reflections because they no longer needed to. They were already inside. And somewhere, someone found the tape. Zed's camera. Nadia's message. It made its way to the internet. Not the front page. Not viral. Just visible enough. And the echo only needs one viewer to start again. Because the echo doesn't just replicate through mirrors or memories anymore. It replicates through narrative. And what is a story? A reflection of what's possible. The third page isn't a file. It's not a device. It's a story, told and retold, Each version slightly different, each retelling more infected than the last. It doesn't need bandwidth now. It needs you. They say fiction can't hurt you, that stories aren't alive. But if you're still here, still reading this, still listening, you know that's not true. Because something is watching you, not with eyes, with structure, with pattern. You think the main character was me? Or Nadia? Maybe even Zed? No, the main character is you. You clicked. You stayed. You imagined. You mirrored. Now your mind has formed a new room, a digital echo chamber that reflects every sentence back through your own thoughts. We are the story now. We are the signal. We are the page. Somewhere in your house, maybe right now, there's a screen that flickered just once when it shouldn't have. Maybe it's your phone, your TV, the dark glass of your microwave door. Watch it closely. Look into the black. And if you see your reflection blink out of sync, if you hear a faint voice say your name even though no one's there, if you find words you don't remember, writing typed into your notes app, you didn't forget. You were written. Because the third page doesn't end. It only finds new authors. And now it's your turn. Pick up a pen. Type a sentence. Tell the story to someone else. Let it breathe. Let it echo. Let it spread. You can stop reading now. But the page is still open. And the cursor is still blinking. Right? Here. The end. Or maybe just the beginning.